A swarm of bees is chasing him, so Spider-Man zips away on a web line. Can a person develop new phobias? Laid in, he jokes, because, I've never been especially scared of bees, hardworking, industrious creatures that only sting in self-defense. Inside the Brooklyn Botanic Garden, the swarm of bees continues to chase the web-slinger as they swarm. The villain watches on. "You disrupt the hive of the mighty swarm!" the villain cries, and Spider-Man flips through the air, submerging himself in a small pond. "Yeah, in hindsight, that was foolish," he nods, shooting his web out of the water and snaring the swarm. Leaping through the air, his fist then connects with the wrapped-up villain. "Sort of my job, you know," Spider-Man says. He leaps in for another punch, but his spider sense suddenly goes haywire as the bees begin to escape the webbing. "You cannot contain a spider," a voice from all around calls to him. "We are many. We are one. We are growing." Spider-Man swings away as the bees attack him, stinging hard on his backside. He then falls amongst the flowers, looking up in time to see Swarm escaping out a window, surrounded by his hive. "Let us be, Spider-Man. If you seek out a new hive, you will perish," Swarm calls as he escapes. Spider-Man pulls himself up from the ground, dusting the dirt off of his uniform. "Credit where it's due, honey man." "Let us be" was by far the best pun of the night, he muses. With the battle over, Spider-Man begins to leave the gardens, limping with his wounds, and he tells his phone to remind him to create an armored spider suit defense against pokey, stinky, zappy villains. His phone then buzzes across the city. Mary Jane continues to text Peter, filling him in on the news story that she and Ben Urge are working on. They stand outside of a comedy club as an EMT tells them that the attack looks like all of the others. "Looks like he took an invisible beating," the woman tells the reporters. The man grumbles and complains behind them. "To be honest, I kind of want to beat him with a curling iron myself," she tells them, letting them know that the other victims all pretty much sucked. "Believe it or not, there's usually something to that," Ben tells the EMT, thanking her. The two reporters head inside the comedy club where the elder, the owner, is trying to straighten up the destroyed room. Bringing them back into her office, the old woman informs them that she didn't have any surveillance cameras and had to ban cell phones from shows. "No privacy left," she huffs, "but it's the world that we live in." Within minutes, Mary Jane finds cell phone footage of the attack online. "The video is already trending on social media," she informs them, holding up her cell phone. From a couple of different angles, they watch the feed on the phone as the comedian continues his set. Suddenly, the microphone lashes out, wrapping around him, and he gets thrown backwards as the microphone is shoved into his mouth. He's thrown off stage. Later, our two reporters are walking through the streets. "This has to be fake, right?" MJ asks. Y'all-Rich nods, telling her about a story that a friend of his did 15 years back. But that's when the cars in the street begin to honk and shake, their alarms going crazy. MJ stares in shock as Ben is subtly thrown, crashing into some trash cans. Before she can react, she's tripped, landing hard and being dragged. "Let go of me!" she screams, being dragged off. Later, Peter leans over the desk in his new, still tiny apartment, working on a piece of equipment when the door bursts open and MJ pushes her way in. "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, Peter!" she breathes, gasping as she slams the door shut behind her. I'm okay. I hate to contradict, but you don't seem okay," Peter tells her, swiveling in his chair. MJ quickly fills Peter in on what happened, the invisible beating, the dragging, and she finishes it off with, "Ben and I were attacked by a ghost," she tells him. A smirk plays over Peter's face, and MJ gets a stern look in her eye, telling him not to look at her like that. A few minutes later, Peter is pouring a cup of coffee, trying to calm her nerves. He couldn't help but laugh every time she said the word, ghost. He smiles, apologizing as he leans down to hug her. "I believe you completely. We just have to dig a little deeper because Spider-Man can't punch a ghost. On a counter, they don't exist." Realizing that Peter doesn't believe her, MJ quickly changes the subject, pointing at the gear that Peter is working on. He smiles, holding up the sketches of the armored spider suit. "I had an idea for a working title, the Arachnite," he tells her proudly. "Thoughts?" She grabs the sheet of paper, staring at her boyfriend. "I thought you fought a sentient bee-man in a giant garden earlier, yet my ghost story is ridiculous." So the next day, Peter meets MJ at the Daily Bugle, and the two of them go searching for Ben Ulrich down in the building's old basement. There, they find the old reporter searching through past stories. "I found the old ghost story I was telling you about," he tells her, handing MJ a folder. She flips through all the old notes, discovering that the reporter died while investigating illegal genetic testing at Oscorp. "Holy crap, Ben, this is wild," she says. Later into the day, MJ continues to look through the file, questioning whether they could be the same test that created Mr. Negative. "Could be," Peter tells her over the radio. "Why do I get a feeling that you're not super focused on her equipment test, partner?" he asks her. She just points out that she's multitasking, glancing at her computer to let him know that there's a robbery in progress. "It's still in progress, and according to the GPS, you're swinging up now." Peter nods, standing on a rooftop overlooking the city as darkness falls. "Arachnite steps out of the shadows," he narrates in his best gravelly voice. "Okay, no," MJ responds, and Peter leaps into the alleyway, stalking forward, his keen sight set squarely on evil doings afoot. "Peter, stop!" she calls, "but Arachnite, it's not a thing." "Fine. I'll be boring, old Spider-Man," he says, stepping out into the alleyway, walking casually towards the men loading up the stolen goods in the back of a van. "Evening, gentlemen. I was wondering if you could help me out with something. We're conducting a little field test on my new armor. Thought I might let you get a few good licks in before I web your thieving butts to the wall," he tells them with a wave. The first man rushes him, swinging a pipe and cracking it into his armor. "There you go, swing for the fences," Peter tells them. The group all come over, throwing everything they have at the web slinger. "Actually sort of fun just standing here for once," Peter notes, and finally he turns, raising his arm for a punch, but the armor whines as the servos lock up. "Little stiff in the shoulder if I'm being honest. Hot potato, something's burning," Peter notes. His body then locks up, but he hits the ground. The thieves all rush him, kicking him while he's down. "You okay?" MJ asks. "I'm sort of trapped in a mobile, which sucks, but the armor works great. Can't feel a thing," Peter manages to say, finally getting his arm free and removing some of the armor. "This is why we run tests," he tells the group as he flips among them, kicking and webbing them up. "I sincerely appreciate your participation, fellas. Literally couldn't have done this without you." Later, after he's beaten them all up, Peter and MJ sit at a diner for dinner. MJ, still poring over the notes from the old file, apologizes, realizing that she's ruining date night. Peter just smiles, telling her that it's fine as he flips a piece of sushi into his mouth. But the sushi just hovers there for a moment before a bite is taken out of it. The whole table begins to rattle as a voice speaks to them. "You can't run fast enough, you can't hide deep enough. I'm everywhere, lady. Throw that file in the trash. You in the trench coat need to back off." The whole restaurant begins to rattle as tables and food lift into the air. Peter's spider sense begins to go crazy. "What is this?" Peter cries as MJ begins to float. "I don't know. Probably science," she tells him. Peter sighs as he looks up, and MJ tells him to hush. "A Peter Parker loud side is the deepest, darkest shade," she tells them as she opens up the door to the magic shop that they're about to enter. "I'm not trying to throw shade, I told you I'd come with," he tells her, looking around at the strange sights in the magic shop. "Just as a scientist, I just trust this whole hocus-pocus occult stuff with every fiber of my being." MJ nods, looking over her shoulder. "Well, as a reporter, I don't leave stones unturned, and your science has been wildly unhelpful so far." The bat curtains part, and the owner enters the shop. "Greetings and salutations, fellow mystics. I'm Quentin Beck, owner and proprietor of the Black Rabbit," he greets them quickly. MJ tells him about their ghost problem, wanting to know if he can help. Communicate with the undead?" Peter sighs, and Quentin smiles, ushering them into the back room. The three of them sit down at the table as Beck prepares. "Traditional science can be a bit murky, you see. Directed lines to the other side being so very hard to come by, so I like to mix in a little bit of card reading and crystallology. Pierce the veil as thoroughly as possible, you understand?" Peter nods, looking around the room, asking about the cameras and sound equipment. "Just wondering when we can expect the show," he asks, but Quentin smiles at his skepticism. "Let's see if we can't open up Peter's mind," he says as they prepare to begin. Suddenly all the lights go out and the room begins to shake. Glass vials and shelves shatter, spilling their contents. "I already told you what I want," a voice booms around them. "How hard is it, lady? Tell the old guy to drop the story. Stick your stupid noses somewhere else. Don't make me tell you again." Everything stops fluttering back to the floor, and the three look around shocked. "That was freaking incredible," Quentin shouts, a smile on his face as he looks back to the footage that the cameras captured on his phone. MJ asks him, "What can you tell us? What did you do for that reaction?" Beck tells her, "That wasn't me. I'm not a fraud or whatever. I believe in this stuff truly, but I've never experienced that before. I hadn't even started the seance yet." He smiles broader, looking down at his phone, asking if they mind if he uploads it to Me Too, only if you send me a copy first, MJ tells him. So the next day, the two of them return to the Daily Bugle, with MJ telling Ben that he won't believe what happened. It involves a spooky friend trying to scare you off. I believe it. So does my dental hygienist and everyone in line at the bagel store this morning. Ben quickly tells him that he found some videos from the store that his friend was working on before she died. Most of it's pretty dry clinical trial footage, but this last one's a doozy, he tells her, hitting the button. The image changes, showing a doctor logging his video as Oscorp Genetic Testing Phase 4, subject James Harvey metabolic bombardment, the doctor says into the camera. He steps back, revealing a man strapped to a machine. "It hurts," Harvey tells the doctor, but the man shrugs it off, telling him that it's normal. Suddenly, there's a flash of light and the man seems to be gone, and a woman rushes in crying over her lost husband. "No, Mrs. Harvey, your husband hasn't gone anywhere," the doctor tells her, and the three watch the video stunned. Some kind of genetic torture, just like Martin Lee. Only worse. Norman Osborn just killed that guy, MJ gasps, but Ben tells her that he didn't. There are interviews with the man months after this video was shot. The group is then interrupted as Robbie Robinson, the editor of the Bugle, comes in, telling MJ that her story on the disappearing food throughout the city is late. Disappearing food, Peter whispers to himself, starting to put things together. Later, Peter swings into a back alley in his new armored suit, with a group of gun runners looking up as he leaps into them. One grabs a machine gun, firing it at the web slinger. "Spider-Man, get him!" the thugs yell. "Get me? What?" Spider-Man asks. "Does the bullets bounce off him harmlessly? Is it candy because I'm not a big flowers guy?" He swings his fist, knocking another gun away as the bullets ricochet off the body armor. His webs lash out, swinging a motorcycle and knocking another group to the ground. Looking up, Peter notices a man arming a rocket launcher and aiming. "Moment of truth," he whispers, and the alleyway erupts into a ball of fire as the rocket destroys everything around them. Spider-Man stands there, the flames licking at his shiny new suit. "I know I'm ruining my badass Terminator firewalk moment by talking, but that was delightful," he tells the goons when suddenly his phone buzzes. "Hey, what's up?" MJ asks as Peter activates the comms. "Just working, no armor pass with flying colors. We still at Gopher tonight?" he asks across the city. MJ is rushing towards the Daily Bugle, telling him that she's headed to the basement to look for more tapes. "Just be careful, it's dark and spooky," Peter tells her, and she hangs up, heading into the old file room of the Daily Bugle. The door then closes behind her, and suddenly she hears the voice again. "How many times do I have to tell you, back off? You're the one chasing me. Who are you?" MJ yells, racing through the stacks of the old files as paper and boxes are thrown around the room. "Why do you care so much?" MJ demands. "There's no story here, don't make me hurt you," the voice yells as a VHS tape is thrown at the reporter, but it phases right through her and MJ smiles. "Gotcha, ghosty." Other images of MJ suddenly begin to appear around the file room, all talking about, "My boyfriend's a scientist and rigged up all of these cool holograms." We had many projectors around the room, the real me's still upstairs. I had a feeling you'd be moving so fast you wouldn't notice that I never actually came down here. "No!" the voice screams. MJ dials Peter, telling him that he was right. "Or this is the first ghost in history that can't walk through walls." "It would be the first ghost in history either way," Peter tells her. Outside, MJ opens the door, revealing Peter hanging there in his armored spider suit. "Why do you smell like fireworks?" she asks him, looking at the smoking suit. "I got blown up, it was epic." The two go back inside, slipping into the security room to watch the monitors, and hours pass as Peter works on a suit. "Is it possible for eyeballs to dry all the way out?" MJ asks, staring at the screen board. "Because they still haven't seen anything." Yeah, but it takes a while," Peter tells her when finally she yells for Peter to come over, pointing at the image that appears on the screen. "That is not the man from the videotape," Peter says, looking at the teenage girl. "Nope, but you got the first part right. Look at her go," as the girl is zipping around the file room. "Locked in there now?" MJ asks, and Peter begins to put on his armor, telling her that he simply runs down there and grabs her. "I made a few adjustments," he tells her. Peter begins to move through the building, opening the door to the basement. Spider-Man means no harm. I come in peace, he says as he goes into the room, showing his hands, but the girl suddenly zips through the room, rushing towards him. I was locked in a concrete box for 11 hours? Do you know how long 11 hours feels to me? She shouts at him, throwing a fist. But using his new velocity suit, Spider-Man dodges it, trying to web her up. But the girl breaks free, managing to land a punch of super speed. She dashes to the door, but Spider-Man beats her there. The girl doesn't slow down, slamming into him hard and breaking the door off its hinges. In seconds, she is tossing him out onto the street. Okay, you're fast, Peter gasps as he slams into a wall, cracking his armor. The girl tosses him, and Spider-Man struggles to his feet, and the girl quickly moves around, stealing food from a bodega and a hot dog cart. Thought some of that rage was me being hangry, but I'm all kinds of full now. Turns out it's just plain old rage, she says, rushing at super speed. Back at you, Spider-Man. Sucks to be you, she tells him, dusting the crumbs off her mouth. The fists begin to pummel rapidly into Spider-Man's face, and a high-speed punch sends him sailing into a nearby ambulance. The speedster rushes him again, yelling for everyone to leave her alone, and another blow knocks him across the street. But this time, Peter reacts, swinging away before the super speedster can launch him into another wall. He begins to crawl fast, his suit keeping him at top speed. This is not okay, he yells, careening around the city, and finally he crashes into his office, taking the door off the hinges. The power core in his suit pulsates as it threatens to go critical, but he rips it free in time and the whole world slows down. He turns, vomiting as he rips off the helmet. Quit playing it safe, Peter, he tells himself, rubbing the spittle from his mouth. Mad science problems require bad science solutions, he says, quoting Dr. Otto Octavius. Time passes as Peter works on the equations, finally adjusting the specs on his velocity armor, and a smile pulls across his face as he works out the issues with the suit. Later, MJ calls Ben Jurek to his office, where the man is reading about the death of James Harvey, who died in a fire. MJ is excited, believing that she might know the identity of the mysterious ghost. Does anyone know if James Harvey had a daughter? She asks. Ben flips through the files and finds that Harvey did have a daughter, Haley Harvey, who managed to survive the fire that took her father's life. She's a junior in Midtown High, he tells her, letting her know with a few taps on his computer that he doesn't have the address, but it's a school day if she wants to try that. MJ agrees, letting Ben know that she thinks Harvey had powers that he passed on to his daughter. She hangs up with the reporter, telling him that she'll call him soon. Ben leans back in his office chair, but before he can get comfortable, he's lifted up into the air, the office trembling, and the desk splitting in half as everything is thrown around the room. I don't want to hurt people for being slow, the voice yells as she lifts Ben by his tie. So I warned you over and over and over again. I don't want to fight Spider-Man. He thinks him one of his gross villains. Because of you, she snarls, pausing as a voice calls out from behind her. You're talking too fast, kiddo, Spider-Man calls out to Haley as he flips across the room. He can't even hear you at your speed. I don't want to fight any more than you do. I'm just trying to get you to slow down. Peter doesn't pause, though, rushing into the girl at top speed, slamming her into the wall. She pushes him off, kicking him away and dashing out of the room before he gives chase. Peter turns, webbing up Ben before he can fall and hit the ground. Hang in there, Ben, he shouts over his shoulder as he speeds out of the room. Ben hangs there, stuck in the webbing, with his glasses askew and his office falling apart. What the hell just happened? The speedster dashes up the side of the building, glass shattering beneath her feet from the sonic vibration, but Spider-Man is right behind her, using the velocity suit, trying to talk some sense into her. She turns, punching him, trying to get him to leave her alone. Meanwhile, over at Midtown High School, MJ notices Carla Harvey leaving the school with her mother, irritated by the parent-teacher conference she just had. Carla Harvey! MJ calls out, and the woman turns, asking who wants to know. Mary Jane Watson, Daily Bugle. I'm researching a story that may involve your daughter. Carla gets a suspicious look on her face, glancing over her shoulder. We shouldn't talk here. Follow me, she tells her, and they walk away with MJ explaining the situation, unaware that Carla is texting her daughter. Meanwhile, the super speedster fight has brought the two of them to the park. Please, kid, Peter calls out, but Haley isn't listening. She whirls on him, throwing another speed punch into his chest. I'm sorry, Peter tells her, but these speeds are too dangerous. I can't let you run around like this. Haley just whirls around, dashing over the pond. If you could catch me, you would have. Peter tries to stop her with his webbing, but it barely slows her down. Her phone then buzzes with a warning from her mother that a reporter is snooping around, and an even faster blur. Haley suddenly dashes away. At the Harvey residence, Carla pours MJ a cup of coffee, explaining that Haley's powers only started a couple of months ago. We thought we were done with the nightmare after the fire and that ridiculous murder investigation. Carla then turns away, letting MJ know that she knows the original reporter was sent by Norman Osborn to root James out to cover up his mistake. That doesn't sound right to MJ, though, and she flips through her notes. According to my notes, James reached out to Maggie himself. He said he wanted to out Oscorp, shine a light on their illegal genetic testing, save other people from suffering like he did. Carla drops the pot of coffee, shock on her face. No, she whispers softly, and suddenly the living room is thrown into turmoil as MJ is lifted off the ground. The room shakes with the couch lifting into the air as the TV cracks. What are you doing in my home? Haley booms, throwing MJ back and forth across the room as her mother comes in, trying to yell for Haley to stop. But the girl isn't listening anymore, running around the room so fast that sparks are beginning to ignite and her body begins to smoke. Spider-Man leaps into the room from the destroyed window. Sorry, I got this. But Haley isn't listening as she bursts into flames. Spider-Man collides with her and the two are thrown out a window. You set me on fire! Haley yells at the wall crawler. I didn't, Peter yells back, shooting a web and swinging away. Even though Haley is on fire, it doesn't seem to be affecting her as she beats against Spider-Man and his armor. They both start to ignite, though, with Spider-Man's webbing snapping, and they plummet into the Hudson River, dousing the flames quickly in the cool water. Spider-Man turns with Haley drifting away, knocked out by the force of the impact, so he grabs her, swimming to the surface. Back at the Harvey's apartment, MJ is dusting herself off as Carla runs in, dousing the flames with the fire extinguisher. I got it! She yells, and MJ stands there looking out the shattered window. So what happened? Haley just happened, Carla says. She sits in a battered chair, telling MJ how she blamed everyone for what happened to James, filling my daughter's head with anger her whole life. I had it all wrong, didn't I? I thought they got him killed. Not that he was trying to do something. Suddenly there's a blur, and Haley is laying on the couch by MJ. Her mother runs across the room to her daughter, and around them, Spider-Man is moving fast, trying to explain to MJ that he's been chasing Haley all day, and that she's moving so fast it sets oxygen on fire around her, and she's losing control. We have to keep her here. I have to slow her down. And you can't see me or hear me, can you? I'm moving way too fast to perceive. Spider-Man suddenly realizes that he's just moving way too quick, so he quickly grabs her notepad and writes down everything that he just said, letting it settle over the girl. With it done, he dashes out of the house, moving through the city, eating food to store up calories, leaving the money to pay for it behind, but he can't stop. He ends up going back to the lab, trying to discover a cure for Haley's problem, and in a matter of seconds, he studies and learns molecular biology. It's been 3 minutes, Frankenstein. I am the price, he tells himself, testing out a theory, having to wait 10 seconds to see if he's right. Time crawls as he's watching the beaker. Good God, it's gonna take 10 seconds, he sighs, and with time to spare, he dashes out of the lab, patrolling the city, stopping criminals, saving citizens. The whole city seems to be standing still as he leaps and runs around them at speedster levels. Central Park is noiseless, with the digital billboards being nothing but white, set to a frequency that Peter can't perceive at his current speed, but he keeps swinging. Suddenly, passing by a cloud of motionless bees, he stops, following them back to the swarm's new lair. But the villain isn't moving either. Everything is stopped, so Peter quickly ties the villain up, leaving him gift-wrapped for the police to find. 10 seconds pass, and Peter returns to the lab, with the experiment finally being over, and he stares at the results for a brief moment before throwing it and destroying the lab around him, his temper tantrum complete. He stops, breathing steadily. He returns to the Harvey residence, where MJ and Carla are still motionless. He doesn't know what to do. Hey MJ, I know you're in the middle of this infinite coffee chat, but I am freaking out and I need to vent. He dashes around the room as they continue to be motionless, and he explains everything that has happened within the last 10 seconds. He stops, hanging before her. What do I do now? He asks, staring into the face of the woman he loves before kissing her on the forehead. Great idea, babe. Thanks for the talk, he tells her before flipping out of the apartment. At super speed, he's suddenly standing in front of his aunt and uncle's grave. Hey, you two, MJ says. Hi. He places a bouquet of daisies on May's grave. Carla had fresh daisies. I know how much you love her daisies, he tells her. And Peter leans down at his family's grave, telling them that he's feeling cut off and just needs to talk. Spider-Man can't punch through this one. There's no super science to it. She doesn't need me. She needs the two of you. Back at the apartment, MJ reaches for her forehead, having felt something in the living room. Haley comes to, struggling off of the couch, and Carla moves across the room trying to stop her daughter, but the girl is gone. She runs through the city at super speed looking for Spider-Man, webbed letters on the ground asking her to slow down, but she refuses as the flames begin to spark around her body again. She blasts through all of his web traps, which slow her down for only an instant. And in that time, billboards on Times Square suddenly light up showing Spider-Man's face. Hey, it's Haley, right? How do you like the codename The Blur? Spider-Man tells her that she can only see this message, and he hopes that it would slow her down. I'm hoping we could talk, he tells her, appearing behind her. The girl turns, anger flashing in her eyes. Keep on hoping, she shouts, throwing another punch. Haley turns on the website, ripping him off of his webbing. Listen, you're obviously plenty mad, but not at me, Spider-Man tells her, not bothering to fight back. But while she has him, he slaps a disc on her back and that disc explodes, expanding a super fire-extinguishing foam. Little something I cooked up, Spider-Man tells her as he swings away. You know, while you were sleeping, Haley screams, and I'm stuck fast for a moment. She wants to know why Spider-Man is just messing with her. You were on fire. I put you out and I'm trying to help you through this. I know it's scary, it has to be scary, he tells her, landing on a construction crane close by. He runs forward, staying ahead of the expanding foam, but while you're so white-hot mad, I can't get through, so I arrange this little time out. The moment doesn't last, though. As Haley moves her feet so fast, she pulls herself free of the foam and begins to rush at Spider-Man. As the girl chases him around and around, Peter continues to try and talk some sense into her. He understands where she's coming from. The world just wasn't great to her, and now she has these powers. You're angry, and you can project that anger onto me, but that anger will burn you out, he tells her, as she continues to try and grab him. When suddenly she slips through, unable to stop on the industrial lubricant that he has spread all over the roof. As she begins to regain her footing, she slams through a wooden water tank, putting out her flames for a few more minutes. I hate you, she screams at him. No, you don't, I'm Spider-Man. People love Spider-Man, Peter tells her, shooting more webs at her. See? Twice before you set yourself on fire and I put you out. No thanks necessary, he tells her, spinning the webs thicker and thicker. And that's when she finally stops, unable to move. This isn't funny, you're not funny, she tells him. Talking down to me like I'm some stupid kid, like I don't get to be mad. Peter keeps talking to her, resting on the tank over her. I don't think you're stupid, I fought stupid, and your anger is completely justified, and Peter knows where anger will get you. And he climbs down to her, telling her how he felt after his uncle was murdered. He knows what she's going through, living with the death of her father, trying so hard not to end up like him. Then one day your powers kick in, you inherit his speed, his gift, and you turn yourself into a ghost. Peter looks in the girl's eyes, asking her to come back so that he can help her. Stop it, just stop it. You can't save me. I was born like this, and if you're right, if these powers are gonna burn me up like they did my dad, that's life, and I'm not slowing down. It's not like anyone can cure me. But Peter responds to that by pulling out a vial of green liquid. Actually, I worked up a vaccine while you were out. I'm pretty sure I can cure you if I wanted to, but I don't, Peter says, smashing the vial in his hands. Shock plays out across Haley's face, but quickly turns to anger as she snaps herself free. Why would you do that? She screams. Spider-Man swings away, trying to move fast as the girl is now rushing at him, and she slams into him with the two of them falling down towards the street below. As they fall, Haley continues to yell, continuing to slam onto Spider-Man with the super fast punches, but Spider-Man doesn't fight back. Haley, listen, something scary's about to happen, but I've got you. Hold on, he says. They slam into the ground at super speed, cracking the pavement and sending cars flying around them. Are you okay? Spider-Man asks, struggling to his feet. But Haley is up, ranting about why would Peter destroy the cure. Because how much worse would this city be without Spider-Man? He asks her. How many people would be worse off if someone had taken my powers away back before I knew what I was doing, when I was a scared teenager just using my new tricks to do bonehead teenager things? The power core in Peter's armor begins to pulse as it overloads, and he reaches for it. I'm not taking your father's gift away before you have decided how you're going to use it. I do think I can help you regulate your speed, but if you want my help, you're going to have to slow down. Peter rips the core out of his chest before it's able to explode, disabling the speed of the velocity armor. Hours later, MJ is on the phone with Ben, giving him the information for the story, but unsure how he will write it without exposing the girl. Ben smiles, telling her that she'll be the one writing it. After she hangs up the phone, MJ turns to a battered Peter struggling through the window. "Oh my God, Peter. I was so worried. What happened?" she says, helping him to a chair. "I'm not sure. The suit blew up and I woke up alone in the street," Peter tells her. He tells her that it could have been worse, though, since Haley didn't kill him, and she doesn't seem to have burned up. "I guess she heard me. She slowed down." Days later, Haley finds a newspaper in a box waiting for her on a fire escape. She reads the MJ article, realizing that she made the story about her father and his quest to expose Oscorp. She yells out the window, wanting Spider-Man to know that this doesn't make them even. As she looks at the box, "This better be a box full of cookies or concert tickets," she grumbles, opening it up, but a smile pulls across her face as she looks inside. Moments later, she's streaking through the city in her new suit. "Haley," the note read inside, "a wise man once told me, with great power there must also come great responsibility. A smart man once helped me build a high-tech supersuit, and the best woman I ever knew helped me off the ground 1,000 times. Twist clockwise for fast or counterclockwise for slow. I'm here if you need me. Go be great, Spider-Man."